being from Afghanistan, was there any kind of, not necessarily internal conflict, but I'm curious, like, did you have strong feelings towards, us going there and, knowing that, where you're from is now kind of in this limelight with American society, I guess, and not that people didn't know that Afghanistan existed, but now it's like, front and center, everybody's talking about it. Like, was there any kind of internal conflict, or what were your thoughts and feelings when that happened?
There was. And mind you that I just spent the last year with these guys. So like in the Marine Corps, I've never been through Army Basic or anybody else's, but in the Marine Corps, when you go through boot camp, they find out who all the infantry guys are and they kind of group you. And then, so you go through boot camp, and then after boot camp, you go to your MOS school, which for us was the School of Infantry. And then by the time we actually got to the fleet, I mean, we were together. We all got to the fleet together. So I've been with these guys for about a year, and we're all tight. 9/11 happens, everything changes. In fact, when 9/11 happened, when it was happening, we just got back from PT. We did a run, swim, run that morning, and we were all smoked. But I had just gotten out of the shower in my buddy's barracks room, and I'm walking across to the other barracks room, and everyone's huddled around the TV. And I'm just looking, and I'm like, bro, what movie are you guys watching? Wow. Like, no, it's not a movie, dude. This is happening right now. This tower just got hit. And so now I'm sitting there in my towel just watching 9/11 go down. And obviously that changed things. But then what I noticed outside of the vibe, that, all right, like something's going to happen, something's coming down, is just the difference in the way I was kind of looked at by some of the people that I spent the last year getting to know.
Really?
Got looked at a little bit differently, got treated a little bit differently. Not by everybody, and not by the majority of people, just a few people.
Like thinking you're some insider spy enemy?
Yeah, so there's like, me being Afghan and Muslim was nothing. Like, it wasn't even a thing. But then 9/11 hit, and it's like, oh, the Muslims and 19, hijackers, and Bin Laden's in the cave in Afghanistan, and all of a sudden, like, I'm getting associated with all of it, And like, people are like, so I get everything from questions to accusations, and I'm not quite sure. I don't remember like the details of how I handled it, but I just remember that there was a lot of guys who had my back, and there was just a couple of guys who, just talk shit, man. That's like, called me a terrorist, called me a sleeper cell, called me, be like, Uncle Bin Laden, did you know those 19 dudes? Like, so it was just a lot of that. And, there's only one guy that it got so bad that him and I fought.
Oh, really?
We got to the point where we fought, and then after that, we became best friends.
Are you still good friends with him?
We're still good friends. Yeah, he lives in San Diego.
Yeah, that's a trip, man. What was the same stuff? Like, he was just busting your chops about?
Same stuff, but I realized that he grew up very sheltered in a Christian city, went to Christian school, and that's just what he knew. He knew nothing about Islam or Muslims. So for his reaction to be that way, I considered that natural. It just kind of hurt that it was like somebody that I thought I knew.
Right.
And then it gets to this place. But afterwards, we became good friends, because then after we fought is when we started talking.
Yeah.
Before, it was just a lot of shit talking.
Yeah.
Then afterwards came the substance of our conversations and the understanding of one another.
It's amazing to me the difference between men and women that way, and especially, A or AA personality men, like, let's fight first and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird backwards.
Well, you just, how it is, man. Some guys don't back down.
Yeah.
And you just get to a place where you're like, dude, it's just words are not doing anything. So you just fight. So in the Marine Corps, you just go out in the bushes and you fight for 5 minutes. It's smoked.
Well, but I think it's like hitting the reset button of respect, though. It's like,
getting all that tension out.
Yeah. But I mean, no matter how much you dislike somebody, if you can respect the fact that physically they're a respectable, somebody that earns your respect through a physical confrontation, it's in some ways it's weird or counterintuitive. In other ways, it makes perfect sense. But it's just interesting, I guess, the dichotomy between a lot of people and our type of people that kind of default to that as the introduction to negotiation. It should be the other way around, but
it was funny because Marines are like, let's go, you guys just need to fight. You guys, so
How did the fight go? That's the big question.
Well, so we both agreed that no one was going to come watch.
Yeah.
Like we just went out into the bushes behind the barracks and we just fought privately.
Yeah.
And we fought to the point where we were both exhausted.
Yeah.
And we just kind of sat up. I was like, and then at one point we kind of had each other and I was like, dude, I'm done. Are you done? He was like, yeah, I'm tired. And it was it. We just sat up all dusty and everything. Like my lip was bleeding. And I was like, are we fucking done, man? Like, are we done?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we're done. And that was it. Like the next day, it was just like new chapter for us.
That's wild.
And then we trained up, and we ended up going to obviously the invasion of Iraq, and that's when we really got tight. And I think that's where a lot of guys who questioned me really got to see, okay, we understand where Kawa stands, despite my own internal conflicts. Because that was part of your question was, how did you feel? I assume as a Muslim and Afghan. Besides that, I had my own internal conflicts. Those guys coming after me didn't bother me as much as me thinking about, okay, whether we go to Afghanistan or Iraq, there's Muslims there that I have to fight. How do I feel about that? Can I bring myself to do it? And so I thought about it, but it didn't really hit me until our first firefight in Iraq. And when we got into our first firefight, that thought really hit me. Like, I had to make a decision, like, then.
Yeah, quick, too.
And so... And it just came down to, it really just came down to the guys that were in that Amtrak with me, and those other 13 guys that were in there. And I look at them and I'm just like, no, man, like, it doesn't matter who we're fighting at this point because we need to get home, So we need to fucking keep each other alive, and then we need to get home. And it didn't matter. And then when I started, basically shooting back at the Iraqi Republican Guard, at the time, you don't really care who you're shooting at. You're just like, these guys are trying to kill us. We're going to kill them first. But then when you reflect back on it, you're like, man, these guys they just signed up to defend their country just like we did.
Right.
And it's not like they were insurgents, that was like way before all that insurgency took place. These are guys that signed up and said, I am going to sign up for the Iraqi Republican Army or the army, and I'm going to defend my nation against everybody. And we came into their hometown, we came into their country, and we killed them, right? So who's really the good guy and who's really the bad guy? And so that's the internal conflict. But I came to a conclusive thought with that a long time ago. And I realized that after OIF1, that what I did was the right decision. And then everything I've done after that has been the right attitude, the right mindset, and the right decisions. So,
yeah.
And even when I went to Afghanistan, fighting Taliban or whoever, like, to me at that point, it didn't matter.
Was it not any different being in Afghanistan now than Iraq? Like for you, was the sense of purpose and the why behind being there the exact same, and it didn't really matter where you were
for both
at?
places?
Yeah. Or did you make a separation because that's where you're from?
Afghanistan was different because I remember like it was yesterday, the C-17 comes rolling in, we come to a halt, the ramp comes down, the sunlight comes in, and for the first time I breathe in that Afghan air in Bagram. Sorry, not Bagram, but a Kandahar calf. And I just had to like take it in for a moment. I was like, holy shit, I'm back here after 30 something years. I'm back in Afghanistan, like where it all started. Yeah. It was a very surreal moment. I just kind of took it all in, and then the one advantage that I had in both places was the understanding of the culture, the religion, and how to deal with Iraqis or Afghans. Especially in Afghanistan, being able to speak to the ANA, because I speak Dari pretty fluently. I wouldn't say I'm fluent in to the definition of the word, but colloquially, I can speak to all my Afghan friends and families. And so I could talk to the ANA, I could talk to the Afghan police. I just couldn't talk to the local villagers because they were all Pashtun speakers. But when they knew I was Afghan, it was like 9-day difference. The hospitality, the respect, the cooperation to work with us. And usually the protocol for me going to Afghanistan or anywhere was the first kind of month or so, I wouldn't tell anybody that I was Afghan. I was just kind of listening in on ANA conversations, what they were saying about us, seeing if I could hear anything that was threatening, indicators of that. Never once did I do that, but that was kind of the protocol. Once I knew I could trust our guys, I dropped that bomb on them like, hey, I'm Afghan. I know Farsi. I know everything you guys been saying. And then their jaws just hit the ground like, holy shit. And the million questions come. But what comes with that is a sense of, you have a sense of camaraderie now because they're like, oh, he's Afghan. and now they work harder. Now they're showing up on time, and now they're more disciplined. And so that was nice to have. And it was nice to have in Iraq too, because although I'm not Iraqi, being Muslim and telling them that I'm Muslim, it was the same thing. They're like, oh, wow, you're Muslim? Then all of a sudden it's like different mindset with us.
Yeah.
So that was always the advantage that I kind of brought.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine as an American military, not that I was an American military leader, but like I'd never let you come home and be like, dude, you are invaluable here, for all of those reasons. Like there's so many things that you can accomplish that a guy like me just am not ever going to be able to do with that skill set and background and experience.
Well, definitely, I would say fifth group definitely recognized that early on.
Yeah, imagine.
And they definitely milked that as much as they could.
Sure.
The trade-off was I was going down all these intel schools, surveillance, and all these little secret squirrel schools. But my thing was what I wanted to return was shooting schools. I was like, all right, I'll go to this nerdy intel school, but only if I can go to a shooting school afterwards. Yeah. And so that was kind of the trade-off. But yeah, they pushed me down a human route, down the surveillance route a lot of times, and I got to do some really cool things because of my background.
Yeah.
So
no, I imagine. Going back to Iraq for a minute, you were there for the initial invasion. How long were you guys there for?
We were there for 9 months.
9 months. And did you get into a lot of gunfights in that capacity?
I would say we got into a lot of gunfights up until and including Baghdad, but then after Baghdad, it kind of died down for us. We got reassigned to Diwania. We went to Samarra first and helped them reestablish their electrical system, and we did some patrols there. Nothing big, but once their electricity was up, we got reassigned to Diwania, and that was more presence, security patrols, and like now it's like winning hearts and minds again, And that was so. But there was definitely some like I would say. There were some maybe factions of insurgency, but nothing like we know of in 2004, 2005, right. OIF2, OIF3 beyond. It was like maybe little pot shots here and there.
Was that the one deployment that you did, or did you do another one?
I did. So I did that initial deployment with the Marine Corps, and then I came back, went to Infantry Squad Leaders course, and then went back to the second trip to Iraq, which was Fallujah, Operation Phantom Fury.
Yeah.
In late 2004 into 2005 as a squad leader.
I mean, that had to have been dicey.
That was intense. That was Arkawi and his guys.
Yeah.
And that was considered Fallujah 2 because I think Army did Fallujah 1.
Right.
So for us, that was Fallujah 2. Phantom Fury was Arkawi. We were told he had 600 fighters. We were told that we were going to surround the city and give them 72 hours to leave, put down their arms. It was a mass exodus of people from 2 checkpoints, one south and one through the Blackwater Bridge, where those 4 Blackwater guys got killed and hung. So that was an exit point. But also how he got out, apparently dressed as a woman. But what we actually came up against was over 2,000 fighters, and not Iraqis alone, but a lot of people from Africa, different parts of the Middle East, came to fight. And we were underprepared for the first 2 weeks because we didn't have ground assets, we didn't have air assets. It was just force on force. So these guys were pretty hunkered into these buildings, and we took a lot of casualties in those first 2 weeks. But then after that, we got the tanks, we got the Abrams, we got the Cobras, and then obviously we started kicking ass. But
I know it's easy to armchair quarterback it, but it seems like, especially this is Fallujah 2.0, they know how the first one went. It seems like a woeful level of unpreparedness to not have heavier duty ground assets and air assets when you're surrounding a town and saying you have 3 days to get out and then we're coming in. Do you have any idea why there wasn't a more robust presence?
Big leadership failure for sure. And that's something that, I don't want to say it was Mattis. I don't think it was him. I forget who it was. I don't want to, kind of dirty his name. But we know that it was a leadership failure. We found out way later that, we were supposed to have those assets prior to the assault starting, but we didn't. And we took our biggest hits in those first 2 weeks. I remember one day alone, we took 17 KIA in one alleyway. I mean, that's just one alleyway in one day. We took 17 KIA because they had daisy-chained IEDs on the walls, not on the ground, but on the walls. And I remember it was Kilo Company. It was a platoon from Kilo Company, and they were adjacent to us. And we hear this boom, 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 boom. And then over the radios, it's, we got Marines down. And we're reacting now. We're like leaving our spot on the line to go to them. So we're like running 3-4 blocks to get to these guys. And we get there and it's chaotic. But that's what it was. And that's how they were fighting. And they also had some civilians that they were using as human shields. And so it was a tough fight. Almost every squad in the Marine in our battalion lost somebody that deployment except for mine.
Man.
And that was a tough deployment. We had Chris Kyle's team with us on that deployment. So Chris was out with the snipers, and we had his team was split between me and Romero's squad. So Romero had half the guys, I had the other half. And of course, as Marines, we look up to Navy SEALs. Like, you guys are our heroes. And like, all I said was, look, I know you guys are attached to us, but just tell us what to do. And the task was easy. It was literally stay online with everybody else and take it building and street at a time. And that's it. We would just leapfrog. The SEALs would be on the rooftop watching our entrance into the next building. Once we established a foothold, they come down, they join us, and we get to the roof, clear up to the rooftop. And it was just that. It was that night and day for like 3 weeks.
Man. Was there a day that stands out to you as being the most difficult in that second Fallujah, that entire several week period where it was just the most intense fighting, and if so, could you walk us through that?
Man, I don't know if there was one intense moment. I mean, that reacting to that alleyway IED was pretty intense, I'd say. Probably the grossest thing I've seen in combat, ever. Yeah, I would say.
Were the 17 KIA all from the IEDs, or was there also small arms reactionary fire follow-on?
No, it was all from the IEDs. There was no small arms fire. We didn't hear anything in the distance, and we didn't hear anything of an actual tick over the radio.
So it was just IEDs and then silence?
We just got told, hey, Kawa, take your squad of the Venegas squad and get over there right now. So we took 26 plus Marines and ran over there as fast as we can. But the rest of Kilo Company was there too. We were just like, how can we help? And we ended up getting on the rooftops now and basically providing overwatch while they were tending to their own guys.
And so when you first encountered that alleyway, what was going through your mind, and what did you see?
Just a lot of smoke and chaos, man. Just a lot of guys on the ground, not being able to tell like what happened, where did this come from, and then in my mind, I'm like, why was everybody in this alleyway? But then like the alleyway was a pretty big size. It's not like a small, tiny alleyway. It was almost like a street. I just feel like maybe they're a little too bunched up. But I can understand why they were bunched up when I'm looking at this place and all the threats from above and across the way. But it was a lot of smoke and a lot of like bodies on the ground that I didn't know who these people were. I just knew they were Marines. They could have been Navy corpsmen. I didn't know. But immediately started, obviously everyone's like picking people to go tend to, and like everyone's busting out tourniquets and applying tourniquets the best we can. And we just don't have enough people on scene to like handle everybody at once. So we're just doing what we can amongst the smoke, also reestablishing security. By the time we got there, we had guys on the corners, but I also added I added one fire team to those two corners. And so between trying to organize the chaos and understand what happened, it was kind of a slow-mo effect. Everything was happening like slow motion wise until you kind of get to a place where you're like, okay, understood. These guys got it. We got to get back. Yeah. But I saw an old man move a bike for us that we were afraid to touch because we thought it was rigged with an IED, and he didn't want to move it. And we ended up paying him money to move it. And he took that $50 and he went up there and he moved that bike, and no bullshit, that bike blew up right in front of our eyes and killed that old man. Yeah. We just didn't know how to tackle stuff like that. Every vehicle we walked past, we were like deathly afraid this thing's gonna go off. Motorcycle. Now everyone's looking at walls. Everyone's looking up on the poles. There's so much wire and garbage everywhere in Fallujah that we didn't know what was electricity wires, cable wires, or IED wires. There's no way to tell. So you're just kind of walking in this rubble. And don't forget that before we actually entered the city, we had F-18s, we had Spectre gunship, we had artillery bombarding the city, before we even walked in there. So we were walking into buildings that were like leaning and stuff. And so it was just a lot of that. And it was a lot of like rotating in and out, trying to get guys rest, and then putting a new squad up there, and then trying to understand like who needs relief, But then as we cleared the city and then we cleared back, there was a different order given. They said, this time if you find any paraphernalia, firearms, ammunition, IED making material in the building, set the building on fire. And so you could imagine Marines, right? They're like, what? They're like, yeah.
We get to do what?
They're like, yeah, if you find bullets in the building, set the building on fire. And it's something when I look at now, I'm just like, man, I'm so ashamed, You're just so ashamed. And I'll get to why in a second, but we're finding bullets in every building. These guys were fighting out of every building. They were holding people hostage before releasing them or keeping them. There was bullets and shit everywhere. So literally the entirety of Fallujah was on fire at one point.
So does the shame stem from, like, these are people's homes that had nothing to do with it and you're just burning them down?
The shame stems from 3 months later, you see these people come back to their homes because we allow them to come back in. And they come home to nothing. They come out to charred couches, no mattresses. Their house is just charred, man. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was on patrol with my guys. I literally got teary-eyed. I was like, dude, we did this. We didn't have to do this. I don't know where this order came from. We just said, roger that. And if we found fucking one bullet in a house, the whole house is on fire. Why? Why are we doing that? But being young and going through the last 3 weeks of watching our buddies die, there's a lot of rage that builds up inside you, a lot of anger, and you just don't care. So you're like, yeah, fuck this place, burn the whole thing down, raise it. But then what also came down 3 months later is, hey, the people are coming back and we need to start winning hearts and minds. It's like,
that's going to be tough.
Like when they say, why did you burn my house down? How am I supposed to answer that? Because I found some bullets in there? How do we win their hearts and minds when we destroy their entire life?
Did you get a sense that other Marines shared that same perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like most of you guys felt?
I remember there was a Marine that on one patrol after the people came back, in the middle of the patrol, he literally set his rifle down on the ground and said, I'm done.
Wow.
He said, I'm done. He said, I don't know what we're doing here anymore. And as a squad leader, I'm just like, fuck, how do I was like, all right, so I had somebody else pick up his rifle, and I was like, well, you're going to finish this patrol with us, but you're going to stay on his hip because he's not going to carry his gun. And we were kind of too far out. We were always pretty much at a midway point anyway. I couldn't turn around and go back. So he walked the rest of the patrol, and I came back, and I told the company first sergeant, and company gunny, and I said, hey, I'm bringing so-and-so back. Can you guys meet me at the commander's office? And that's where we all met, and I said, he put his rifle down. He said he's done.
All right, folks, some breaking news right off the top. Beam's cyber sale is now open for early access for my listeners, and it's their best offer of the year. Right now, my listeners get up to 50% off with my code MicDrop, all caps, all one word. And you can grab Dream for just $32.50. That breaks down to only $1.08 per night. For the best sleep of your life, go to shopbeam.com/MicDrop and use my code MicDrop. And don't miss out. This is the lowest price Dream has ever been sold anywhere, and they will likely sell out quickly. Now, if you've listened to this show for a while, you've heard me talk about Beam. They're an American company founded by people who actually believe in hard work, clean products, and personal responsibility. And unlike the junk pushed by Big Pharma, Beam's Dream Powder is clean. There's no fillers, absolutely no synthetic garbage. Dream is packed with ingredients your body actually needs to sleep. Comes packed with reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and yes, even melatonin. But dosed intelligently, not like the drugstore garbage that knocks you out and leaves you groggy. So now's the time. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount. Go to shopbeam.com/MicDrop and use the code MicDrop, all caps, all one word, and get up to 50% off during Beam's cyber sale. You can grab Dream for just $32.50. But here's the catch. Dream is only available at this price until it sells out. So seriously, think about it. How much would you pay for a truly great night of sleep? With Beam's cyber price, it's just $1.08 per night. Go to shopbeam.com/MicDrop and try Beam today.
Now he had his own reasons, but to answer to get to your point, yeah, that was hard on a lot of us because we didn't think we were going to stick around and see these people come back.
Right.
We thought we're going to take care of this place and then go back to our compound, which is miles outside of Fallujah, and we're going to do stuff there. And when we're done, as in, we didn't know that these people were going to come back. So these people came back, and now we have to see their faces as they're living. They're sitting on the porch of their burnt home, and they're waving to us, and we're waving back.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting there. So yeah, it was hard. It was hard, man.
I can imagine. I mean, the psychological impact that being in that environment for an extended period of time, I mean, any amount of time, but especially weeks straight, is that something that, as I know, I've had even other guys on the show that have been, that was there at that, or that were there at the time. Has that been something for you that has resurfaced throughout your life as something that you find yourself thinking about and struggling with?
Yeah, I think it's something that we all kind of reflect back on. I know you have moments that you probably think about all the time.
For sure.
And some of those are good because we want to hang on to those good memories. We kind of vicariously live through our memories sometimes, But then sometimes we have to deal with the demons in our closet and the stuff that we've either been a part of or that we did. And there's just no way to get away from it, but you have to find like a healthy outlet for it. Otherwise, you find yourself spiraling down a bottle or popping pills, and you know how that is in special operations, man. They just give us whatever we want, and guys are drinking all the time. We have fucking beer and alcohol in our team rooms. And if you're not sleeping well, you go to the PA and say, hey, can I get some sleeping meds? And now you're mixing Ambien with alcohol and, uppers and downers, and it's too easy. It's like Skittles for us. And that's a different topic of how we tend to our guys when they come back from these traumatic experiences. But yeah, man, it's fucked up. And to this day, the military doesn't have a way to help guys like you and I deal with that.
Yeah.
I always recommended like an AA style. I said, we don't need some college person to come in here with their textbook answers. Why don't you just let a bunch of dudes sit in a circle and talk to each other, or just listen? That would be, to me, that would be way better than having some professional try to tell us what's wrong with us, or tell us how to get better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, it's the same methodology that Spartan fighters used, 2 millennia ago. Now, granted, they had the almost double-edged sword luxury, not luxury, of not being able to fly home and go from that environment to being sitting there with a 3-year-old, 18 hours after you were just in that environment, which that's not normal or healthy.
No.
It took them weeks or even months in some cases to walk back home, and so they had that just the dudes sitting around campfires in a non-combat environment trek home to decompress and all that stuff, and I think that's why they were as successful at living lives of combat as they were. But
yeah,
I'm curious with Iraq in particular, because when you look back on it now, that's arguably, I mean, you mentioned that was the heaviest, kind of most traumatic combat that you'd seen in your entire military career, even spending 15 years as a Green Beret. What we know now about Iraq and the pretenses as to why we went in, the destruction of the country, the vacuum of power that it's created in the region, it's hard to argue that was a good call, generally speaking, going into Iraq. Does that impact your reflection on it, your difficulty in reconciling any of the experiences and things that you've done there? Also kind of couching it with, like, what was the point? Do you make a distinction between Iraq and Afghanistan that way with your personal reflection on it?
I do. I think I've come to conclusion on all of those different wars. And I very much agree that Iraq was a mistake, to put it the simplest way, or it was probably one of the greatest sins that America has one of the greatest sins that we've conducted is what we did in Iraq. And we know now that weapons of mass destruction was a lie. Everything we said Saddam had and he was doing was pretty much a lie or an exaggeration of the truth to justify the actions that we took there. But when we look at it now, I look at Afghanistan and Iraq the same way. We were there 20, 25 years, and where is it now? It's worse off than it was, at least when Saddam was there. He wasn't the best guy, but he kept that whole region in check.
Yeah.
And you have countries like Israel who were afraid of Saddam, and that's another reason why I think we had to go there and take this guy down, because everybody was afraid of him, and rightfully so, man. He came in there and he ruled with an iron fist. But the thing is that the damage that he was doing is pennies in a bucket compared to the amount of damage that we did in the name of good, and come years later. And I think Afghanistan the same way. We went to Afghanistan for bin Laden, which is ridiculous. Invade a sovereign nation for one man. I'm pretty sure we have some units in the military that specialize in going to get those guys, But we decided to create an entire theater of war. And for 24, 23 years, we've been there, and it's like, at some point, you're just like, my second deployment to Afghanistan, I was like, what are we doing here again?
Yeah.
My first deployment, I was excited. I was like, cool, bro, new scenario, different enemy, my people, there's some pros and cons here. But then by the time I got by the end of that first deployment and into the second deployment, I was like, dude, I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
The Taliban clearly run this country. Like, everybody loves the Taliban because the Taliban are the Afghan people. It's not like we have, it's not like we have Zarqawi, who's Syrian, coming into Iraq to, take Fallujah as a stronghold. We have the people of Afghanistan running their own country. I feel like it's just that we didn't like who was running the country, and we wanted to get some other things done. And so we used bin Laden and 9/11 as a justification to go to Afghanistan. So I think both countries, or both wars, were started for lies and a gateway to get us into the region for other stuff that we kind of see, unfolding today.